He is a great friend of the state of Israel and a great friend of the Jewish people.
Well, an introduction that one cannot possibly live up to. Thank you very much. Dr. Frager, thank you for everything, for putting this together, for making it happen, for being a friend, for being a great patriot as an American and a tireless advocate for Israel as well. Dr. Brody, thank you very much as well for your support. Odelia Jacobs, thank you. And everyone else that's been a part of this group who has worked so hard to make the last 2 days special, to make tonight special, to make the next couple of days, I have no doubt, an amazing opportunity. I am so grateful to be here, and I know I speak for my wife Samantha as well. It is her first time here in Israel, my second, but we're exploring it together, seeing new places together. And I will say that I am glad I spoke last. Not because the first shall be last or anything like that, because our job, why I came here was to listen. Was to listen and to understand. Was to see and to experience. Was to internalize what it is to be Jewish, what it is to live in the state of Israel, what it is to see the geography, what it is to understand this state and the threats that it faces. I come here only with an open heart and an open mind to truly understand. So I'm here not to speak to you about what I know, but instead with a humble and open heart to learn about what you face and bring those truths back to America. I have the great privilege of being a commentator on Fox News Channel, of talking about veterans and national security and military and foreign affairs and hosting shows regularly. And I take with that a great responsibility because these issues come up. And most people that you would know, and I'm not talking about anyone at Fox, I'm talking about elsewhere, have almost no idea what it's like to live in Israel, what it's like to face the threats that Israel faces. And in fact, they're only infected by the left-wing narrative or the traditional narrative of higher education in our traditional media that always points the finger at Israel. Just as it always points the finger at America, and will find every reason to place blame in the wrong spot. When we decided to come here, my wife and I, it was a no-brainer, and it was a no-brainer for her as well. We knew it would be a transformative experience. Part of when I came here, a lot of people asked me, a couple of people this morning in a press conference, what can Israel learn from America? Was asked a couple of times. And each time I stopped and I said, you need to reverse that question. The question is, what can America learn from Israel? And Ken put it very well. I won't try to add on top of his presentation. What always strikes me about Israel is the pervasive sense of purpose. The pervasive sense and understanding of something greater than yourself. A sense of purpose that is intoxicating, infectious to me. Because there's a small percentage of Americans, most of which served in the military and other areas, that understand that. When you raise your right hand in America to defend the Constitution of the United States, that's an oath you don't take lightly. You take that with an understanding you could pay the price of your life. The same type of commitment and selfless commitment comes with faith. Many people in America have that as well. Evangelical Christians, Catholics, Jews in that country. But predominantly in American culture today, American culture is largely asleep. Largely asleep to the realities of the world that we face. Largely asleep to the depth of the threats on the horizon. And the state of Israel, for reasons that you all understand far better than I, is not asleep. And is forced each and every day to wake up under the umbrella of existential threats. Threats that bring mental harm, anguish, bodily harm, and yet you stand up each and every day and decide to fight back. Listening to the mother of the wife of the man who was killed by terrorists reminds me of the Gold Star. We call them Gold Star mothers or Gold Star families in the United States. who are mothers or spouses of men who are killed in combat. They are always the ones I draw the most strength from, because they come home and they have two choices. They can come home and shrink and hide and want to not be a part of confronting what took the life of their loved one, or they can come back and be a powerful voice for continuing the fight. And the ones that inspire me the most, Karen Vaughn is a perfect example. A mother of a Navy SEAL, have come back and I think inspired thousands. In fact, Karen should come here. She probably has, and remind them what America faces. When I thought about tonight, and I'll speak very briefly. You said 3 minutes. I'll probably steal a few more than 3. But I looked to the book of Psalms and David, as you do, as an evangelical Christian. I grew up on those stories and believed them and loved them and cherished them. That's why being where we were today was so powerful. And it speaks to me about what Israel represents. He said in the 27th Psalm, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life, of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked advance against me to devour me, it is my enemies and my foes who will stumble and fall. Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war breaks out against me, even then I will be confident." And that's just the first 3 verses, and you know it better than I. I will be confident. Confident not just by force of arms, confident not just by wealth, confident in who you are as God's chosen people in the state of Israel. And that understanding is what fortifies your ability to defend free people, democracy, as was powerfully pointed out, governing, self-governance, rule of law, the bedrock principles of the West, the bedrock principles that America purports and wants to stand on. Those are the principles, when I look at Israel, that I absorb and say we need to remind America of. It reminds me of a verse from the book of Romans. The book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 31. "If God is with us, then who can be against us?" The state of Israel understands that intuitively as the people of God. In America, if we decide to eject God from public life, if we decide to reject faith, then we are charting our own course, which is a tragic one. And so, as Americans, and what I talk about in the book, and what my own experience is when you reject that faith, you reject the ability to believe in the things that made America special in the first place. America, we have separation of church and state. We recognize people to be believers or non-believers. But it was always freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. And understanding that our rights are endowed on us by a creator, not by a king or a dictator. And it is our job, recognizing the power of our Declaration of Independence and Constitution, to live up to those values and continue to defend them. Because like Israel, America is an exceptional nation. Meaning, it's not exceptional in the fact that it's wealthy or boastful or proud or arrogant. Exceptional idea that it is the exception to the rule. Just like Israel in this region is the exception to the rule. Less than 1% of anyone who's lived on this earth, any human being, has ever lived free. Most have lived under a dictator or a theocrat or a despot. And if they voted in a sham election. What we have is, by definition, exceptional and special. And the book I wrote, it's called In the Arena. It's about a speech that Teddy Roosevelt gave in 1910, the great American president, who I learned at the age of 15 visited Jerusalem on this trip and tried to stay at the Mediterranean Hotel, but they denied him. They had no more rooms. So he stayed at the Damascus Hotel, where Teddy Roosevelt, the great American president, gave a speech called Citizenship in a Republic. And in that speech, he talks about the basic bedrocks that republics or democracies or free peoples require. And it's kind of a un-PC speech before there was political correctness, the poison of political correctness, which, to mention Donald Trump, is something we are finally confronting in America. The poison and wet blanket of political correctness that allows us to not speak truth in light of a world that has a very different viewpoint of America. But the basic premise of the book is that for free countries to stay free, average citizens must be good citizens. Every individual in the arena that they can affect has to be willing to fight, has to be willing to serve, has to be attached to something greater than themselves. And in the book, I talk about my time in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's not a biography, but America has learned a lot of lessons in the last 15 years since 9/11. A lot of lessons that Israel's known for decades and centuries and millennia. We've learned them the hard way, and we've made plenty of mistakes in the process. But I write to say that you don't have to carry a rifle in order to be in the arena. You just have to have an abiding sense that you're a part of something greater, and you're willing to serve it and put it in front of yourself. That's what I see in the communities that we were in today, in Shiloh. I have a feeling I'll see elsewhere. People who are attached to the land, who are attached to their community, who are attached to their family, who are attached to faith, and understand that perpetuating that is perpetuating freedom and opportunity and that same faith to the next generation. Ronald Reagan, the great American president, once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. You don't pass it to the next generation in the bloodstream. It has to be fought for and it must be defended." And he went on to say, lest we live someday as grandparents, speaking to our grandchildren, telling them what it was like when men were once free. That is truly what's at stake. And when I'm in Israel, I'm reminded that history is not over. If there's one people that can stand and say, hey, look at how we've been treated, it is the Jewish people in Israel. Instead, they live in history, cognizant of history, charting a course forward proactively. America has decided in many quarters that it doesn't want to live in history anymore. And it looks at, oftentimes, unfortunately, to Western Europe, where they've decided to gut their militaries to pay for their welfare states. They open up their borders. They don't demand allegiance or assimilation from populations. And then they wonder what's happened in their midst. It's not a mistake that the most popular boy's name in London today of a newborn 3 times over is Muhammad. That has implications and ramifications. If America ceases to live in history, we can give away this special nation that is only 240 years old. And I say that to peoples who have been around for many, 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 many more years than that. So I say that as the youngest, one of the youngest republics on the block. Actually not. One of the oldest republics on the block, if you look at other republics that have risen and fallen because they've forgotten the very principles on which they were founded. So when I speak in America, I always end by talking about a quote that is, or a sentiment that is oftentimes used in America, which is that veterans will be tempted to say, I fought. I put on a uniform. I went to Iraq or Afghanistan or World War I or World War II or Korea or Vietnam so that my kids won't have to. I fought so that they can live in peace. And it is a tempting thought. In fact, in World War II, after American GIs deployed around the globe to defeat Nazis and the Imperial Japanese, liberate camps too late in many places, but be a part of that, that generation went back to America and said, we did fight the Nazis so the next generation can live more free. But I counsel nobody to say that anymore, and I never say it myself. I didn't fight so that my kids won't have to fight. I fought knowing that my kids will have to fight as well. And maybe that's by force of arms. Lord knows the policies our country has pursued in light of the threats that we face have brought terror to our shores as well. Maybe that will require a rifle. But if not, I hope my children, our 3 boys, Gunnar, Boone, and Rex, who are 6, 4, and 10 months old, will be raised to love the Lord their God, raised to love their country, raised to love their state and their community and their family, and to be willing to fight for them all. And stand by understand and know who their friends are in this world, and have the willingness and ability to stand by them in times easy and tough, in vows, in sickness, and in health. The relationship, richer or for poorer, the relationship between Israel and America, in my mind, is inextricable. It is one in which we stand side by side, prepared to stand with our friends in every way. And we have a leader right now who has not, and who has turned in the other direction. That is a reality that men like me, other folks in the media, and Lisa and others and at Fox and elsewhere take very seriously. And we hope we have the opportunity to tell the truth about this great nation. the truth about the threats that we face, and then lock arms and shields with all of you in defense of freedom and Western civilization. Thank you very much for having me.